Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. I am Martina Lily, and today we are doing a new Pat McGrath Labs eyeshadow palette ranking. I have done a few of these before, but since my last one I've added a lot of Pat McGrath Labs palettes to my collection, so it's time to do a new one. I have a whole Pat McGrath Labs playlist if you want to check out more content from the brand. I'm a big Pat McGrath Labs lover, shan't lie. So that'll be linked in the description box for you as well. Also, this look right here, if you're wondering, will already be up on the channel, and this is a full face of Pat McGrath Labs. So I'll link that video down below for you as well to check out if you wish. We are going to do desk format, so we can just focus on the palettes themselves, and hopefully this all sounds interesting. If it does, let's go ahead and do the YouTubey things. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and let's get into it. This is my entire Pat McGrath Labs eyeshadow palette collection. I have 24 palettes if I have counted correctly. I have every single Mothership, quite a couple of, well, 4 of the quads, the most recent Christmas collection, the last 2 Christmas palettes, Bridgerton, and the Love collection. So I started collecting my Pat McGrath Labs eyeshadow palettes in 2020. My first one was Midnight Sun, and it basically started this intense love affair with Pat McGrath Labs. And here we are, I guess, 2.5 years later at this point, because I think I got it in like July, August, my first Pat palette in 2020. So we'll go from number 24 to number 1, 24 being my least favorite, number 1 being my first favorite. This is very hard for me, just an FYI. I love all of my Pat palettes, and you're going to hear a lot that even though I'm ranking it lower or whatever, that I still love it, because I really do love all of my Pat palettes. I really do. So with my ranking, it's not that it's ranking necessarily at number 24 because it's a low quality. This is literally personal preference, personal opinion. It's just based off of my preferences of color story, what I like to wear with my makeup, maybe the formula, something like that. But really this all just comes down to personal opinion, so just keep that in mind. A lot of the time on these videos specifically, I do get asked what is the one palette that I would recommend to someone, especially out of the Motherships. And I always just say, pick the color story that speaks to you the most, pick the color story that you think you'll get the most wear out of, and you can't go wrong because they're all absolutely beautiful in their own individual ways. Also, don't mind my nails, okay? Some people care about that, some people don't, so I just want to caveat it. They're kind of damaged from all the gel polish at the moment, and they've just like all come off because they're so soft, so I'm just rehabbing them, so apologies. Also, my palettes are pretty messy. I will try and dust them off and all that for you, because some people also get triggered by that, and I'm not saying that to be rude or anything. I get it, but just a fair warning, my palettes are pretty messy. Everything will be linked down below in the description box. They are affiliate links, so if you shop through them, I make a small commission. Thank you so much if you do. It just goes back into supporting my little channel here. Now let's get into ranking these, and starting with number 24. Number 24 is a quad from the Celestial Odyssey release, not last year, so not 2022 Christmas release, but 2021 Christmas release, and this one is called Bronze Borealis, and I actually got this for free in the Black Friday sale last year, so I did not pay for this quad. And fun fact, I actually haven't even tried it yet because the color story really doesn't interest me, and to be fair, I'll probably give this to my mum because I think she'll quite like it. I think if you like bronze shadows, it's quite beautiful, and the metallic formulas do feel really quite lovely. So it's not that it's a hideous palette, it's just that I have all of these shades over and over again in my Pat collection, so it's nothing that I'm like rushing to put on my lids, to be honest with you. So yeah, this one is just ranking at number 24 because of those things. Number 23 is a newer palette that Pat has released, and it is the Sublime Seduction palette from the recent Love collection. And don't get me wrong, the quality of this palette is impeccable. The mattes are truly, truly stunning, but it's very warm tone leaning, and if I'm honest, I just don't really, again, lean warm toned. I don't lean towards these particular shades. I will say the actual formula of this particular palette leans really heavily in terms of my preferences of her formulas, but I'm not going to reach for this a lot because of the color story. I assume one day my preference will go back from like cool tone to warm tone. I used to be a warm tone gal, so you know, I keep it around because it probably will shift one day, and this is great for travel. This is a pure color story preference with it ranking so low. Number 22 is a quad that a lot of you absolutely adore, and I totally get it. It is a pretty quad, don't get me wrong. This is the Venus in Fleur's Voyeuristic Vixen quad, and it is pretty, don't get me wrong. Like, this shade is really pretty. It's actually, I used to absolutely loathe this quad, shan't lie, I really did. But it has actually gone up in favor in terms of, like, I actually probably use it more often than I ever would have. I think the shades are stunning, but also at the same time, I love these two shades, but these two shades to me, I just don't, I mean, the champagne is like, she has one in every palette. I don't like the formula of this matte, so I just don't think to reach for it a whole lot in terms of like the use that I get out of it on a daily basis. Like, there's other palettes that I would kind of pick to use over it, but I do not dislike this as much as I used to. I've actually really grown to quite like it. Number 21 is a palette that used to rank really quite highly throughout my Pat McGrath Labs collection, but for some reason today when I sat down to do this ranking and pick the palettes, it really has dropped, because I just look at it now and I'm like, it's just not the vibe right now for me. And it's Bridgerton Collection 1, so Season 1, Diamond of the First Water. Now don't get me wrong, again, I love all of these palettes. I think they're all amazing, I think they're all impeccable, and I do really still love having this in my collection. I don't want to declutter it or anything, but it's just the pinks in here at the moment. I'm just really not, like, I'm just not vibing with them. And this purple shadow is actually really similar to one in Divine Rose 2, which is higher up, and this one is actually my favorite shadow out of this entire palette. And I really like this blue. Like, I think it's really impeccable, and I love the formula of these satins. I just wish they weren't so pink, you know? I mean, look at it, it's a beautiful color story, and like I said, it is still like, I still have a soft spot for it. But when I tried to think about, like, okay, what would you, like, if you had to go traveling for the weekend or whatever, what would you take with you? Other palettes just ranked higher. Number 20 is probably a controversial one. I really do think this will be a controversial one for sure, but hear me out. Number 20 is the first Mothership in the ranking, and it is Subversive. Now, these special shades right here, I mean, they're impeccable, right? Like, you can't go past these special shades. They are stunning. But to be fair, apart from the white, like on the inner corner, sure, that's in other collections though, or other palettes. This pink is really amazing. I would wear this on the everyday, but these two shadows here, I'm not going to get a lot of use out of them. They're kind of like not my everyday shadows, even though I can appreciate them for what they bring. They're kind of like every now and then they have a moment, right? Which is fine. But I really don't like this 6 pen right here. I really don't. I don't like the shades. I don't super love the quality of them. I don't think I've ever worn these 3 metallics here, maybe once for a look or something. It's just, I don't super duper love them. I wish I could just have this in a quad, like the Ritualistic Rose kind of quad. That would be perfect, because yeah, I just don't love these. And I understand, like, if this is your color story, then like go for it. It is like a grungy kind of like sci-fi rock type palette, so it's definitely going to be for some people, but it's just not for me. But I do like these special shades, but there's just other palettes that I would reach for over this. Had a lot of trouble ranking 19 and 18, if I'm honest, and I think I could probably interchange 19 and 18 with each other, or kind of keep them on the same level. But number 19 is actually the Nude Allure Quint from her recent Christmas release or holiday release. And this is a really, really pretty quint, and like the formula is really impeccable. Like, truly, the formula is stunning. I just don't super love the shades right now. Like, I don't reach for this a whole lot, just because it's a little bit more warm tone, pinky, corally leaning, and it's just not something that I'm particularly gravitating towards in my like makeup preferences at the moment. Formula is truly top notch, but yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't get as excited by this one. Number 18 is the Bridgerton 2 palette, Belle of the Ball. Again, I really do love this palette. I really struggled ranking this one, because if I'm honest, for me, it's all about this mint shade and this shade right here. Like, these two shades are some of my favorites in the entire Pat collection. Are you gonna focus? There we go. Like, they really are. They're just absolutely beautiful shades. I just love this kind of minty color, and this, like, it's like a suspended rose gold glitter, and it's incredible, and I love them. And if I could remove them from this palette and put them into another one, like, I absolutely would, because this is the exact same shade out of Subversive. I personally cannot see a difference between them. I've already got this in Subversive, but actually, you know what I would prefer is I would like to be able to remove these three shadows and replace them with the three metallic shadows in the Diamond of the First Water that I super love, and then it would just be like a perfect little six pan for me, because I don't love these. I mean, this champagne shade's fine, it's whatever, I'm neither here nor there about it. These are just too rosy undertone leaning for me. I just don't super love it. I created a look the other day. I'll edit it and put it up as a short. I filmed it as a short using all the shades in this palette, and I just didn't super love how it turned out because of how these, like, two shades have such a rosy pink undertone. So I wish I could just, like, remove these and create, like, my perfect six pan, because I really do love these two and this one. Like, I think they're stunning. So yeah, half of it, like, they would rank a lot higher than, like, those three, for example. Number 17, we have another newer palette to Pat's collection, and it is the iconic Infatuation palette from the Love collection. Now, formula-wise, this formula ranks incredibly high. The mattes in the Love collection, especially these mattes, they are the best mattes in my personal opinion out of Pat McGrath Labs' entire collection. But this color story is just not as exciting to me, or I have it in other palettes with, like, extras, you know, in the higher rankings. Number 16. I actually thought number 16 was going to rank a lot lower, but here we are. Number 16 is the Celestial Nirvana palette. So this was her holiday release from last year, like the mega palette. And while I look at this, and there's quite a few shades in here that I probably won't, well, I know I won't get a lot of use out of. For example, these two purple shades and these two, like this pink and this red. When I actually was ranking this and stripping this down, and even when I was swatching, like, my, apologies again, it takes a lot of time to wipe 24 palettes down, you guys. Sorry. When I was even doing my metallic ranking the other day and I was swatching this, like, a lot of these metallics actually ranked quite highly in my overall Pat McGrath Labs metallic collection. And that's one of the things that I love about this palette is if I were to travel with this palette, I would really have like everything I could really need. I've got a neutral for my crease. I've got a deepening shade. If I really wanted to add a little slight pop of color, I have it. These two shades right here though are just incredible. Like, they are stunning on the lids, and I really, really love using them. So I have my kind of like go-to shades. I also have this beautiful, like, cool tony slight lilac shade as well, which I also really love. And then, you know, I have this kind of like orangey copper shade, a gold, a blue. Like, it's just really quite versatile. And so because of that, I actually found myself continuously pushing this up in the ranking list. So there you go. We're in the top 15 now. So number 15 is actually the Nocturnal Nirvana quad. Now, I do love this quad, especially this green shade. But again, it's kind of like one of those color stories that I love and adore, but, you know, probably won't get as much use out of it as I would like to think I would, just because, I mean, I don't super duper love this gold. I do like it, don't get me wrong. I just probably won't think to use it as much. The purple's beautiful. The blue's probably a little bit bright for me, and the green I'll get a lot of use out of. So I like it. Again, it's one of those kinds of color stories that will have its moment for me. But there's a lot of other palettes in front of it that has like the whole package kind of thing. So while I like it, I like the quality of it and I love owning it. It's just also, in the grand scheme of things, a little bit lower in the ranking, but I do love it. Like, look at how incredible these shades are, right? Oh, fire. Number 14, we have another Mothership. And to be honest, this Mothership kind of cops a beating from me quite a lot. This is Huetopian Dream. And I love this pink shade. This pink shade totally makes this whole palette worth it for me. I won't lie, it's incredible. And I love these two special shades right here as well. Like, these three shades are just stunning. I just don't super duper like love this palette as a whole color story. I also love that chocolate. So there's some shades in here that I just absolutely adore, and I do really like having it, but I really don't like these two shades here at all. Like, I just really don't like them. I also don't like this orange shade. I really don't. I like these two mattes. They are pretty. I don't know. There's just, it's like these three right here really throw it off for me. And also, as much as I love those two purple shades, I mean, they're not something I'm going to gravitate towards on the everyday. It's also a little bit too warm tone leaning for me, but I will say if you love warm tones, this is actually a really good palette to own because it's quite versatile across the seasons if you love a warm tone, because you kind of have these like summer pops of colors, right? Like spring, summer, but then when like the weather turns to like autumn and winter, you've got these more like deeper, warmer kind of wintry tones. So it's actually the kind of like palette that will take you across an entire year, but you gotta love warm tones, and for me it's just, I don't as much, you know? Number 13 was a palette that I was an absolute clown about. Vehemently said I would never, didn't pick it up. It was like I would never like it, and one of my beautiful friends, Martina, sent this to me as a gift, and I'm so grateful because I absolutely adore it. It's Celestial Divinity. So this was the original first ever like Mothership mega palette that Pat released for the holiday season. And my lord, you guys kept telling me, like all of you kept saying to me, you need to get this palette. And I was like, no, I will never use this color story. And I was such a clown because honestly, these shadows are really, really good. Look at this 4, right? Look at how insanely beautiful they are. This dragonfly color is like one of my all-time favorite metallic shades. It is such a wearable palette. You could take it traveling, and honestly, like, you've got everything you kind of need. The one thing this palette is missing, I think, is just a couple of neutral mattes. I would probably take out like this shade and maybe a couple of these purples, like this one, and throw in some neutral mattes, and it's like perfect, right? Like absolutely stunning. And just, yeah, the quality of these they're like creamy molten metallics. Number 12, we have another Mothership palette. Now, this Mothership palette is Bronze Seduction, which actually has my all-time favorite special shade in it, which is this one right here, VR Fire Opal. Literally my favorite special shade of all time. Like, it's the best. I wish I could have it in a single. But if I'm honest, the rest of these, while I actually really like all 4 of these special shades because they're incredible, I love these 2 the most, and like these are stunning. I just don't really wear a red eyeshadow a whole lot, and I don't love the formula of this 6. I like the color story of this 6, but I think these 6 shadows, at least in my Bronze Seduction palette, I don't know about other people's, but these 6 shadows in mine are the worst quality shadows out of my entire Pat McGrath Labs Mothership collection, hands down. I don't know if I got an old palette or what, but they suck. These 2 are like hard pan. It's hard to even like get anything from them. They're so dry and horrible, and like to even use on the eyes, it's just forget it. And the mattes are just a bit patchy, they're dry, they're chalk-like. So I don't know if it's just mine or what, but I mean, these special shades, they're phenomenal. I have literally 0 complaints about the special shades in this, but this 6 is just honestly dismal for me. And so the only reason, like if this didn't have these 2 shades in it, this would probably almost be last because of how bad a quality I personally find those 6 shadows to be. So overall, the color story is amazing, and if they performed impeccably, it would go a lot higher up my list. But yeah, it's got to get marked down because of that. Number 11 is actually one of my most used motherships, and it's very grotty looking, so I apologize, but it's actually Divine Rose too, and you can see like I've given this a little bit of a wipe, but it's really been through the ringer. It's also one of the motherships that I've owned the longest, and I love this color story, don't get me wrong. I think it's beautiful. I love the special shades. This like rose gold shade is so lovely, and like this one right here, like, oh, absolutely beautiful. It's also just another really warm tone leaning palette, and so I just am not in that phase of my makeup journey right now. When I switch back to that, you know, it'll happen again and I will absolutely fall in love with this palette again. This purple right here was actually in my top 10 of my like my favorite metallic shades from Pat McGrath Labs, so there's definitely shades in here that I just absolutely adore. But overall, the whole like color story of this palette isn't something that I'm constantly reaching for, like ahead of, like I'm not reaching for this more than the ones ahead of it, if that kind of makes sense. So that's why it's ranking at this point. But I do really love it. Like it is absolutely stunning. We are into our top 10. So here we go. Number 10 is the Last in the Love collection, Velvet Liaison, and the only reason this is ranking at number 10 is just because it is an all matte palette, so there's nothing really that special to it, but I love this intensely. I feel like you guys kind of already know how much I love this palette. It is such a perfect companion palette to the rest of the Pat McGrath Labs collection, especially the Mothership collection. I reach for this, like every time I reach for a Mothership now, I pretty much pull this out because it just has every kind of matte in here that I really want, and anything it doesn't, like then the Motherships will have. But like this transition shade, you know, this more cool tony one, I love this one, like the whole thing, I just love this so much. I really want her to keep releasing 6-pan palettes with this matte formula. I love the matte formula and I just want some more shades. Number 9 is another all special shade quad. This is the Ritualistic Rose quad. I think this is an absolutely impeccable, beautiful, luxurious quad. It's currently sold out, I think, and I think for good reason. It's so beautiful. Look at these shades. It's so wearable. I like this because the shades aren't too warm leaning. Like this gold is more of a neutral gold, and the same with the bronze and that. So I actually really like these shades. I really like the quality of this quad, and it is something that I will get a lot of use out of, and I think it's like a really lovely quad to like go traveling with. And yeah, I think this is absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy I finally bit the bullet and picked it up. And I also found that these special shades could be sheared out quite lovely so that they could be really soft and wearable as well. So yeah, I love this one. Number 8 is another Mothership. I never actually planned on picking this one up because there's no special shades in it. Yes, this is Decadence, and I know a lot of people would look at this and just think absolutely not worth it, not worth the price point because there are no special shades in here. But when I tell you the love affair that I have with this palette, it is crazy. Like these two kind of like cool tony shades, this green was in my top 10 fave metallics. Even just this little like rose goldy kind of like pinky salmony type shade. It's just a really wearable kind of color story for me. And I think it kind of covers a lot of bases. You kind of gotta, it's like I mean, it's a jewel collection, right? Like Decadence, it was kind of like after like the crown jewels and stuff. And so I get it, and it's stunning. And I have zero regrets in picking this Mothership up. Number 7, another Mothership, and it is Sublime. This one holds such a special place in my heart, I won't lie. I just adore this green, and like in the video of me trying this particular palette, I think it's got a heap of views on my channel too, and it's just like, you know, it's one of the first greens that I've tried with a black base that actually translates as exactly this color onto the eye. A lot of the time they'll translate with just like the black base, but like this one also, like this pink shade, seriously, look at that. But also I think what doesn't get honorable mentions in this palette is like the metallic shades as well. They're super lovely and wearable in their own right. And so I actually find myself getting a lot of use out of Sublime. I really like it. I think you can create so many stunning, impeccable, beautiful looks with it. I think the only thing that like lets it down is just that it doesn't have any like, I guess, transition shades to it or anything like that, depending on your skin tone obviously. But now that I have Velvet Liaison, you know, it doesn't really matter because I have that matte collection to use in conjunction with this. But in terms of these special shades, they're beautiful. The metallics in here are beautiful. I really, really think Sublime gets severely underrated throughout the entire Mothership collection. Number 6, we have the first Mothership I ever tried, ever, period. This was the love affair that started it all. I love Midnight Sun. I do think Midnight Sun is a really good palette to dip your toes into the world of Pat McGrath Labs Motherships because it's quite versatile in the sense that you have these like wearable transition shades, a really nice like cool tony bronze and army green, and then just some of the most impeccable, mesmerizing special shades that you can kind of get. Like, look at that. Isn't that incredible? It's just stunning. And then you have this beautiful purple and like a really nice neutral gold that isn't too warm tone leaning, isn't too cool tone. It's like straight down the line. Like, it's just a really versatile palette. And I know that people might kind of, let me see if I can do this. Even just that, like people might get really confused with like the purple, I can't do it, but the purple being in here thinking it's like a really colorful palette. But if you just like ignore the purple, it's actually such a neutral, really everyday wearable palette. And I really think Midnight Sun is just a star. Number 5 is actually Bronze Bliss from last year's holiday collection. I just really like the formula of Bronze Bliss. This shadow right here and this shadow ranked, these two right here ranked in my top 10 metallic shades. This one's impeccable too. It's the formula of these that really make them so special. I can't explain it, but they are like proper cream, molten, liquid, metallic goodness. They honestly could be special shades in their own right, especially this one. It's just absolutely impeccable. This shade is actually one of the colors that I had on my eyes when I first started this video with the intro. It's just, I just think this palette is so beautiful, so beautiful. And the looks that you can create with it are just absolutely stunning, but it's all about this formula. I need her to bring these three, the formulas of these three, to like every metallic shade that she does from now on. That's what I need. I feel like you guys absolutely know my top 4. I'm just interested if you know the order of the top 4. So, number 4, we have Subliminal. Also a Mothership that I would never plan on picking up because I just couldn't get past this blue, right? Like I just was like, I'm never going to use that. And then one of you just kept, well, actually nearly all of you kept hounding me to get it for the rest of the shades. And I actually got this for like $90 off Sephora Australia years ago. And my lord, clearly I love this. I mean, the star of this palette for me is actually this matte. It's like the most perfect transition shade of all time. I've cut back on using it because I really don't want it to get used up. But the rest of this, like this shadow, I've got such a dent in this. I don't even know if you can like even tell. Like, see how often I use that? And like this one is beautiful. The gold is beautiful. But even like these metallics are so lovely. And I just got, like, they're just such beautiful, wearable, cool tone shades. If you are a cool tone lover or you want to dip your toes in the world of cool tones, this is the palette. This is the palette. It is so beautiful, truly. And like, I know this looks intimidating. It is so much more wearable on the eyes. Like, and then you obviously have a deep blue, which has its moment, and it's just incredible. This entire palette is incredible, and I absolutely adore it, truly. Number 3, I feel like you guys kind of know. It's Divine Rose 1. I love it. I love it. It's, again, a cool tone, smoky mauve dream. I really do. This shade right here is like one of my faves out of the whole collection. It is incredible. It has Astral Solstice from Midnight Sun. It has this beautiful gold, and then it has a beautiful smoky purple. I love it. I think it is absolutely beautiful. It creates such soft romantic looks. You can really transition this from like day to night. You know, it covers everything you could want it to cover. It's got like enough depth in here with the mattes, like a lighter transition shade, a deeper matte. It has everything. Like, I just think Divine Rose 1. When I first got Divine Rose 1, I didn't super duper love it as much. I was like, I'm not sure, but I wasn't as in like, I was in my more warm tone leaning phase then, but since then I've really come to just absolutely treasure cool tones. Number 2 is absolutely going to come at like a complete shock, I think, to most of you, and I don't actually think you can get this one anymore, so I'm sorry, but it is Celestial Odyssey. I love this. I love this, and I know, like, look how dirty it is. I'm sorry. That's as good as it's going to get, okay? I know this doesn't have any special shades in it, but I love the versatility of the shade range in this palette, and I love the formula. I don't love this palette for the mattes. I can take or leave them, but like I could travel with this, and the mattes are still a great formula, but like I can work with them fine. But my gosh, this shade, honestly all of these shades, I just love them so much. Like, I think this one and these two were like in my top 10 metallic shades. I love this one. I love the pink. This one is amazing. The blue. I love everything about this palette, seriously. I love it. It inspires me. I know that I feel like this palette actually is like you either love it or hate it. Like, you either really like the color story and love that there's just so many random kind of colors in here, or you just are like, no, this is not for me. But I really love it because I feel like whatever kind of mood I'm in, there's a shadow in here for me. And I am, yeah, I intensely love this palette. It's odd, but I do. Naturally, that means that number 1 is Moonlit Seduction. Moonlit Seduction is hands down my favorite Mothership. It's my favorite Pat palette, hands down. I know a lot of people were disappointed that these 4 shadows were not Pat's normal baked special shade formula, and I get it. I mean, I totally understand, but the color story of this palette and just everything about it, like this shade, this one, like, I love them. I love them. I use it so often. It's incredible. Like, I just love them. And like, this gold shade is like so amazing. This is like the best gold shade in her entire collection, and like VR Sextasy. It just has so much dimension and just stunning goodness to it, and you can like sheer it out like that, or you can like build it up to be really opaque. This Platinum Dusk is like the perfect grey steel color. The lilac is just perfect. I love it. Even this bronze, I use the bronze so often. 2 things I would change, I say this all the time, I would switch out these 2 mattes. I would make them just straight down the line, like almost like I would make this one the Subliminal transition shade and then like a middle tone one there. And it would just be absolutely chef's kiss perfection to me. It doesn't get better than this. Like, I seriously can't stress enough how much I absolutely adore Moonlit Seduction. It is hands down my fave. I cannot wait as well to see what she does with this year's Mothership. Hopefully it's not any form of like gold and bronze leaning. I really want to see something different from her with this year's Mothership, but still, I know these were like these plummy tones and people were just like off it, but this palette has everything for me. I'm just mesmerized by it. I love it so much. Alright friends, that wraps up my Pat McGrath Labs ranking. 24 palettes ranked. I feel like most of you guessed my ranking. I'm so predictable. I feel like most of you guessed it, but let me know, did you guess it? Was it a complete surprise to you? And what is your number 1 favorite Pat McGrath Labs palette? Like, what is the one for you? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are watching till this point, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so, so much. I truly appreciate it. If you haven't already, pretty please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. And I hope that you have the most amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Bye!